Today, I'm going to show you how to start the landing phase with a Tear of the Goddess. To do this, you'll have to clear a camp without using any potions, or any items that provide combat stats, and with a heavy emphasis in the utility mastery page. So this greatly diminishes the amounts of champions that we can actually use for this. This is a list of the champions that are capable of starting the lane with a tier and who can benefit from it. Of course, there might be more that I just haven't considered yet. I'm going to cover a diverse set of champions that are capable of starting the lane with a tier and who can potentially benefit from it, as well as talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of running this sort of strategy. So let's get started. A Tear of the Goddess costs 720 gold. We start the game with 475 in general, but if we get wealth from the utility mastery page, which requires at least 13 points, then we start with 515 gold. Now add on to that clearing a camp, and natural gold generation, and by between 2 minutes and 30 seconds and 2 minutes and 40 seconds, depending on which camp we cleared, we'll have the tier. Let's get started with two of the champions that benefit most from this strategy, Yorick and Karthus. You all remember Yorick, Mori. Yorick isn't capable of clearing Krugs, Gromp, or Raptors, but he has no trouble with Wolves, which coincidentally give the most gold. Not bad. Karthus is a different sort of something. He can only survive if he starts on the Raptor camp, and he needs to start E for that, so that he can clear the little Raptors and stop them from dealing damage to him. For this, he also needs somewhat of a dedicated rune page. He needs health seals and flat AP, quints, and glyphs, and then magic penetration marks. Now you can probably use a different sort of rune page, but just keep in mind that everything needs to be sort of flat, because otherwise Karthus isn't going to survive. But on the plus side, Karthus gets tier immediately, so he's got pretty much infinite mana for the most part, and depending on when you build Archangels, you can have it upgraded to Seraphs by between 12 minutes and 15 minutes. One of the other champions that you can pull this off with is Elise, and just kidding. So now for Urgot. I honestly didn't think Urgot was capable of pulling this off without Smite, but it turns out that he is with the right rune and mastery page. So take flat 80 quints and marks and flat health seals, and then the glyphs I generally take scaling cooldown reduction. Masteries I run 9021, and because you're already specking so much in the utility tree when you get wealth, just a few more points, and Urgot benefits greatly from some additional mana and cooldown reduction and all the great stuff you get from specializing in the utility tree. So some of the advantages and disadvantages. One of the disadvantages to starting with a tier is not being able to get any health potions. This isn't so bad on champions with sustain like Elise, Yorick, and Nunu, but it can make life difficult for Shaco, Karthus, and Malzahar. Of course, without potions, you need to modify your strategy accordingly. Champions with sustain need to be able to use it, so Nunu, Elise, and Yorick need to be able to do what they're already good at and bully the lane. Champions without sustain like Shaco, Karthus, and Malzahar may need to stay back and farm safely, but may also be able to harass their opponents due to large supplies of mana. Now consider the advantage. Mermana and Seraphs aren't meant to be fully stacked by 15 minutes, just by the sheer amount of stats that they give, but we can do it. The power spike is phenomenal. Of course, if you take Smite, you can do this on pretty much anyone, but then you have to take Smite. So what other champions can pull this off? Does starting with a tier so unnaturally early have a place in competitive play? Let me know what you think in the comment section below, as well as whether you'd like to see a full gameplay commentary of any particular champion starting with a tier. Until next time, this has been Chimal Paprika, and I'm back.